Welcome to the Fantasy Rewind podcast. I'm your co-host, Dylan Stoll, and I'm joined as always by my friend, Michael Whifford. Today, we are going to be talking about Willow, episode 5.
Wildwood.
All right.
Wildwood.
So before we get into talking about anything here for episode 5, Wildwood, we're going to give out the typical reminders, where if you want to get in contact with the show, you can send us an email, which is fantasyrewindpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram as well, which is @fantasyrewindpod. And we're also on Twitter, which is @fantasyrewind. So, Mike, do you want to get into a little bit of Willow-related news that you sent me earlier today?
Yeah, so we've been talking on the show for a bit about how Willow does not have a book series, and we were wrong about that.
Dum.
So apparently the book series did come out. Now, this did come out after or following the Willow movie. And the first book in the series was Shadow Moon, and this was a fantasy novel written by Chris Claremont, and George Lucas. Oh my gosh. Well, the series is very different, and I'll give a little overview of the first book in the trilogy, because it is a trilogy. But this was, as I said, published in 1995. Now, I think it was really cool that he got Chris Claremont in on this, because for those of you who don't know, Chris Claremont was the big head honcho writing X-Men for, I think, a lot of the run, maybe up until the 90s. But yeah, he birthed what we now know as X-Men. I know Stan Lee made it originally, but Chris Claremont is the reason it is what it is. So that's really cool that he got him as a side writer. Now, let's actually talk about the plot of this for a second. And I'm just going to read this right off of the Wikipedia because there's a lot.
It's too crazy to do it any other way.
Yeah, it is very much different than what we know as the Willow TV show. So the plot here is that 1 year after the defeat of Queen Bevmorda, Willow Ufgood continues his life as a farmer while honing his sorcery. One night, he dreams of riding on the back of a dragon named Calandinir to Tirslien. There, he reunites with Madmartigan and Sorsha, who rename him Thorn Drumhelmer, in honor of Elora Danan's first birthday. He gifts her a stuffed bear, which transfers a portion of his magical power to her. When he awakens, he discovers an apocalyptic cataclysm has wiped out several areas of the world, including Tirslien, killing Madmartigan and Sorsha. The High Aldwin urges him to leave Nelwyn Vale and investigate the cause of this destruction. 12 years later, Willow, now going by Thorn Drumhelmer, searches the lands with Brownies, Rule, and Frangine. The trio are attacked by a pack of death dogs, whom they ward off with the help of Garen Havelhand, a Dalkini trooper from Angwin. It just keeps going. But very, very different than what we have now. And I have to say, pretty glad.
Yes, I'm pretty glad that we have what we have now as opposed to this. The one thing that this book series did, which I feel like it did better, at least from the synopsises that I've read, than what we've gotten in the show so far, is just the fact that we didn't have this elaborate ruse of who is Elora Danan. Like, it was clear who she was, and she was in place to rule and brought up to rule, and it even references how she was like a spoiled brat, like princess, basically, when Willow finds her again. But yeah, I mean, other than that, this series sounds like a convoluted mess. One that I would happily still check out if I found it for the right price. But
oh gosh, that's the other thing. Like, you look online and they're all like $50. So.
Yeah, and I'm not willing to spend that.
And it is a trilogy, so it's 3 of them. So if I see it in like in a thrift store,
like a Goodwill, or just, yeah. Sounds like the type of book I would find there.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Dylan, I also know that, before we get into this episode here, we talked last time about doing a sales pitch for a book series.
We did.
Did you come prepared for that, or did you want to move that to next episode, or do a separate episode on it?
I wanted to do a separate episode on it, actually.
That is perfectly fine. In fact, you know what might be fun is if we come with 2 series.
Okay.
Or even 3. We'll have to decide, because I have a couple that I would love to pitch to you.
Sure, yeah. All right.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's plan for another episode for that. But for right now, let's dive into the rewind.
Fantasy Rewind. All right. Episode 5, Wildwood. Dylan, overall thoughts on the episode and go.
This was actually a little bit of a disappointing episode for me. If I'm being honest, I thought that the upward trajectory the show had been on, I had higher expectations for this episode, and it kind of let me down a little bit. And a big part of that had to do with the reveal of the true parentage of our knight in shining armor in training.
Jade?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. I was a little disappointed by that, too. I don't know, man. I just wish she had kind of just stayed sort of like a, I don't know if this is a good term or not, gutter rat. Like, it's just sort of like an orphan, and her family, like, she didn't really know. And it would have been cool to find out if her family was, like, attached in some way, but not, like, super meaningful to the first movie. That would have been cool, I think. But they've really made it so, like, all these characters have to have a strong connection to characters in the first movie.
And the reason why I have a little bit of a problem with Jade being related to the first Bone Reaver, or the first Skull Reaver, I forget exactly the title there, but it's because of what happened in just the last episode, where she saw, like, the vision of the Bone Reaver coming at her, like, swinging the sword, trying to kill her and everything.
Yeah, General Keel, right?
I think so, yeah. But so because of this vision, because of her, like, reliving that traumatic event in her childhood, it seemed to me very contradictory for them to come right out and say, like, oh, yeah, that never happened. She's actually this. Like, it was very, very strange, in my opinion, to go that direction with her.
Yeah, I agree. And it really kind of, I think what they're trying to do here is really try to make the Reavers seem like reasonable people, freedom fighters, if you will.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's fair, They wouldn't just be going around just taking skulls for no reason, right? And I think it's interesting, we're skipping ahead here a while, but the speech Scorpia gives about how, like, they're not under the boot of, like, Tyrsline and not under the boot of the trolls. So, they're kind of in this middle ground.
Yeah, it does actually prove to be, like, a nice little character development for that group of people there that we had never gotten before, because otherwise you just see them as, like, these outriders going out there and terrorizing people and everything. Like, they're the ones, episode 1, that just, like, or episode 2, I think, that just, like, kill the unnamed guard that went with the group here when they left Tyrsline.
That they've completely forgotten about, yeah.
Yeah, but this also does frame Sorsha in a different light in what she's done with Tyrsline, because it talks about how they have Bavmorda's blood in them, and maybe they have more of Bavmorda's blood in them than they are letting on, and then we realize as viewers that what kind of a ruler has Sorsha been, because up to this point, we've seen nothing but the positive light shown on her. So this is a group of people that kind of show, like, hey, everything's not so great if you're not in Tyrsline and following what they want you to do. So it was just an interesting little side episode kind of to characterize this group of people. But all in all, like I said, not my favorite episode of the season. Kind of seemed like a little bit of an unnecessary episode.
Yeah, but I mean, the purpose of this one was really to build relationship or chemistry between our characters and start to resolve some things before jumping us back into more tension. In a weird way, it was kind of a funny episode.
It really was, yeah.
Because, like, you think it would have, like, a lot more at stake, but there never really was any moment where I was like, oh, man, oh, no, they got captured. Like, no.
So there's a few things that I kind of took away from this episode, and I know this is kind of jumping everywhere. But
it's all right. I'll rein us in a minute.
But going in with what Willow says to Graydon that Allura overhears, where he was like, I was never a great sorcerer. I was just kind of a tricky old man who kind of pulled the wool over people's eyes. And Allura hearing him say that, and she kind of, like, drops her jaw and turns around, runs away. And I was like, it's so interesting to characterize him like that, because that's what we've seen so far. But then we saw this explosion of magic out of him the last couple episodes that show maybe he does have this real ability.
Well, and like he says, too, he's just a mediocre sorcerer.
Yeah, mediocre sorcerer. But I think it's also good of him to, like, I know he had the truth fruit or whatever, but good of him to, like, recognize that, you know, he talks a bigger game than what he actually is. There is something else interesting that happens in this episode, and this is probably my favorite part of this episode. Is in the beginning of this episode or the end of the last episode. I forget which because it blurs to me. Where you hear like the voice of the Lich or the voice of the crone telling their little minions, like, get the girl, kill the rest. And we're all, as viewers, being like, oh, so they're going right after Allura, like they have been this whole time. But no, you find out in the end of the episode they were going after our princess there, Sorcerer's daughter, to grab her up and take her away at the end of this episode.
But that was the trolls.
Those were the trolls? That wasn't...
Yeah, at the end of this episode?
Mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the trolls. Yeah, no.
I totally thought those were the people that were chasing them and like were after them with the Lich. No. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get to that. But anyway, let's start in because the intro is... I like that the intro is literally like Braum just like running because the Gales are chasing him. And I was nervous because I thought, oh, this whole episode's going to be like the Gales chasing him through the Wildwood. Interesting enough, they didn't even enter the Wildwood.
No, they wouldn't go in.
Now, I know you may not have liked it because it had like, you know, newer music playing during this whole scene, but it was fun. It honestly was giving me sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy type vibes, like some intense like action and, you know, like rock music or punk music playing. As I said, I was glad it started that quick. And like you said, Willow jumping out real quick here with a flamethrower.
Yeah.
I thought this part was very fun.
Honestly, this really just is a fun romp through the woods, like with the show in general. Like, it doesn't take itself seriously at all. There are moments of it that you just like are like, what the hell? Like, where did he get a flamethrower from? And like, if you just like suspend like caring about like anything that's even remotely possible, you know what I mean? Like, if you suspend your belief, you end up enjoying it so much more because it's just so... It doesn't take itself seriously at all. The show is just pure entertainment and fun.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. Now, I thought this description of the Wildwood was kind of interesting. The whole purpose they didn't want to go into is because it would suck you in and you'd never want to leave. And I thought that was just weird because we've been in the Wildwood in the first Willow movie. Didn't really have that effect.
No.
And, you know, like when we went in here, we got a little bit of that magic, a little bit of that whimsy with like those butterflies. But outside of that, like...
I mean, there were the brownies, but the brownies themselves didn't do anything too fantastical in this episode. Just kind of added a really little comedy and a callback to the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that it was very interesting because, like you said, they were saying all throughout the beginning part, don't go in there, you'll never want to come out. And then this is the second time we've gone in the Wildwood, I think, this season. Because I'm pretty sure that's where Allura met the two woodswomen before. Yeah. And they were fine. And now we find...
Again, it did look really nice in there compared to the outside.
It did. And now we find the Bone Reavers, and they were fine. They're having a party in there. And I almost wonder, like, if the whole reputation the Wildwood has earned about, like, don't go in there, you'll never want to leave, you'll never come out, is because the Bone Reavers don't let people leave once they come in there and find their encampment or whatever. And kind of use the mystique of the Wildwood as, like, a shade over people's eyes about, hey, you don't want to come in here, don't come looking for us in here, because this wood is cursed or whatever.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. You know, the trolls don't seem to have a problem with it, but the Gales have a problem with it, so...
Maybe there is, like, some leftover magic from Shalindria protecting the Wildwood from the Lich or his influence or from the Crone.
Very much be. Or very might well be. Very might well be. Yeah, probably. when we're coming in, I immediately knew we were going to meet someone in Jade's family because Jade talks about her parents' killers, like, went into the Wildwood and never came out. And Kit was like, oh, well, maybe we'll meet him here. And I was like, oh, that's definitely foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
We're either going to meet the killers or we're going to meet someone in her family. And, we met her sister, apparently. Laura Dannon and Willow are taking a little break here to train. We get a little history on the wand, that it's a splinter of the great tree at the center of all things, Shalindria's wand. And Laura Dannon must master the 4 pillars of pedagogy.
And apparently she's already mastered 1 or 2.
Yeah, I wrote them down. So alchemy, that's what she said because she, made the potion for Graydon. Growing stuff. I forget what that one was called. He did name it in that earlier episode. Concentration and divination. And she's just making a joke out of it, like, I'm ready. And she does end up with the wand later on, and I guess she can use it. I think it's going to be interesting here because we have a lot of tropes within fantasy for, like, magic users, right? And I think about her and how she's just so gung-ho to just use magic. And typically when magic users are like this, either they're going to go through a phase where they're going to be tempted to join evil or could turn evil, right?
Okay.
Or they end up
burning out,
getting so gung-ho they hurt someone they love, or, and then it's like, oh no, but now I have this terrible relationship with magic. So I don't know if they're going to go in one of those directions with her or not. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, the third trope that you didn't mention there was the one that I just did too, which is they also can, like, burn out and, like, lose magic temporarily.
Oh, yeah. And then they'll have to, like, go through a quest to get it back.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, Borman decides to talk to Graydon. He boops him on the nose. This part was really cute. He was, like, giving him all this advice, like, well, all the women love me, and I got all this great wisdom. And Graydon's like, oh, really? Like, what could you tell me something to do? And he's like, oh, I'll give you some dating advice. Women love it when... And he doesn't finish the sentence because he sees the skulls on the ground. He's like, oh, no, Bone Reavers. Like, I know something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Graydon's like, and they love it when what? When what? When what, Borman? When what? What do you think he would have said?
I honestly have no idea because Borman is so ridiculous that he could have said anything there. But I do think that it's very intriguing that other people are noticing Graydon liking Allura, and him basically coming out in this episode and, like, letting everyone know, hey, I like Allura. And, like, then he even tries a little something.
With my fiance standing 2 feet away. But I mean, I think everyone knows who his fiance likes anyway.
Right,
so.
Everyone was also like, Kit, we know you like Jade. Go over there and
at
tell
the end,
her how you feel.
she admitted it.
Yeah, she admitted it, and then she got
troll
snatched.
napped.
Yeah.
Troll snatched, yeah. Anyway, I was kind of thinking he would tell him some line about how, like, you got to be degrading to him or mean to him or something like that, Women love it when you, like, ignore them or something. I just feel like that would be his shtick. And we did get to see him kind of laying the charm on this episode, so that was a little bit of foreshadowing too.
And it was working for him.
Yeah. They were captured by Reavers. Borman does end up knowing the leader, Scorpia, and I was sitting there for a minute and I was like, so are Reavers cannibals? Because they talk about having skull stew a lot.
Yeah, actually that's a good question. I hope not, because that could mean bad things.
Cannibals and figs of truth.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I immediately put down there, and we've already said it, but Scorpia is Jade's sister, but I was like, oh, that's Jade's mom.
Oh, yeah. Actually, they do look very much alike as far as, like, that goes. So, the family ties was no surprise.
Yeah. But Borman and Scorpia have a history. Like, they've been together before. They really dig each other, and Borman is apparently okay lying to everyone under the sun, including this girl he really liked. I love the flashback scene about how he was like, I was trying to get back here before this, and this happened, and it's just him, like, getting, like, plastered and, like, partying, and I love how he was like, how else do you think I escaped the trolls outside of like killing them all? Instead, he's like sitting in a bucket of poop.
Yep, I know. I loved that part. That was one of the best parts of the episode.
Dying. I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, this is like the perfect humor they need to hit with this show, and Borman's the one who does it the best.
Which is why he's my favorite character so far.
Yes, I'd agree. Yeah, he's definitely up there. And honestly, this episode, I will say Kit and Elora Danan, like, Kit's kind of dug herself out of a little bit of being the worst, I think.
She's still digging, in my opinion, but she's working her way up.
Well, I would say she stopped digging and she started to
There you go, yeah. So she stopped digging, she started climbing up. Okay,
Yeah.
Good way to put it.
Yeah. Anyway, everyone gets captured. Jade, they were like, we're going to have fun with you. And Borman gets tied up in Scorpia's tent where she interrogates him about what he was doing. And it seems like it wasn't just Mad Mardigan on this quest, but also some other guy who he said was killed by the trolls. We don't know for certain, but apparently him and that person had a falling out anyway. Graydon was really excited to get put in there with Willow, and his first question's all about Elora Danan. And this is the fallout from last episode where, like, she sees that he had killed his brother. She's been kind of acting cold towards him, and he's just like, but I love her, without saying he loves her after only knowing her for, like, a week. You know? And Willow's just kind of like, here for it, not here for it. I was like...
He's like, leave her alone, she doesn't have time.
Yeah, it's kind of cute how much Graydon and him sort of started to bond, and obviously the brownies are there, and we get to... Well, one of the brownies are there, and we get to sort of have that moment. They didn't really add much to it at all.
They never really do.
But, no, I know. But, like, at least they weren't, like, culturally insensitive this time.
Yeah.
As much as the 80s movie was. But the one brownie friend did say, like, hey, like, you have someone like us now. You have him right there in Graydon. And it's like, oh, okay. So, like, they're pretty much building up now. Those two are going to be buddies, which is fun. Actually, I think that's cool because I do think that builds up for Graydon to become, like, the next sort of wizard like Willow.
Agreed. I can totally see Graydon, like I've said this before, becoming a sorcerer. I would not be surprised if his experience with possession comes into play again, where he's able to, like, either harness something to, like summon some kind of demon or, like, something to help fight them. But yeah,
maybe it puts him in tune with magic, and it was like
that's what I was
facet
thinking
of
too.
himself he had to get under control or something. Yeah. I did say here that it was interesting because they talked about the trolls for a bit between Borman and Scorpia and Troll Mountain. So before, like, we just, in the Willow movie, the original Willow movie, they talked about how terrible trolls were. And we got a couple of them.
They were in Terra's Lee in the movie.
Yes. But now we know that, like, they have a legitimate kingdom. And apparently they kidnap people and make people work for them. Don't really know or understand that too much. So
what if
it's going to be interesting to kind of... Yeah. It's going to be interesting to, I'm assuming, next episode, you know, because that's obviously where it's going, to get a lot more about them and their culture. And it's cool that they took something so small in the first movie and sort of scoped it out a little bit.
So this pace has me wondering, though, if we're going to get to where Eric's at in this season, or if it's going to be something that's going to be left hanging. You know what I mean? Because this is episode 5.
I wonder.
It's only an 8-episode season, so I don't know if they'll get there.
I feel like either we'll just get snippets of him there, or he's going to just show up to, like, face them or something.
Yeah, but be on the bad guy's side.
Yeah, but be on the bad guy's side. It's going to be one or the other here. It's going to be like that. He's that constant motivation for them, and he's still out of reach, and, like, things are kind of happening to him in small bits. Or, like, we're not going to see him for a long period of time. He's just going to show up and, hey, I'm evil now. And we'll get some backstory then or something. But
yeah, quick flashback.
Yeah, I feel like it's one or the other. Anyway, so we find out General Kale was Jade's father. This is after Jade and Scorpia fight, and Scorpia sees that she has a scorpion tattooed on the back of her neck. We find out Scorpia's her sister, and how the Reavers tattoo the back and necks so everyone knows who their lineage is. And she was kidnapped by Tyr's Lean, yada, 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 sob story. Now they're all welcome in the Bone Reavers camp. Oh, by the way, Laura Dannon blows the door open off of their prison with the wand that she took from Willow. And it's, like, pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool.
And her and Kit had a little moment as well where Kit wasn't quite as insufferable.
And that happened a couple times. I really think they were, like, started off like, oh, I hate her, Kit. And then now it's like, Kit's like, can you just help me? Like, and Laura Dannon's giving her good advice.
She is.
For the most part. So the Bone Reavers are celebrating. Alora's free. All of them are free. Yada, yada, yeah. Let's party. They're celebrating Jade's return. Lori, who is the Bone Reaver we met originally, is also very funny. I really liked him in those brief minutes. He was like that big, tough softie.
Yeah, exactly. Like a tough teddy bear.
Yeah. So everyone's dancing, drinking, they're having competitions, they're eating truth plums, everyone's totally honest. Obviously, this is a great mix for this campaign of people who just seem to love each other, but not tell each other they love each other. So we find out, though, between Graydon and Laura Dannon, when they have a little heart-to-heart, that Graydon was possessed as a child. Things are awkward between her and Alora right now because she's, not sure about all this, and Kit and Alora have like this conversation, and Alora's just like, listen, you just gotta tell Jade how you feel. And then she's like, I need to go do that with Graydon.
Yeah.
And so both of them sort of depart to go do their thing. Willow is sort of confessing to Graydon about how he's a mediocre sorcerer. He's built his reputation off of one accident, really, or one bluff, I guess, and Alora hears that, like you had mentioned. We cut to sort of Kit and Jade having this really intense moment where Kit is finally saying, like, hey, I'm a goober. I really like you. You're the best thing going for me. Let's do the thing. Let's kiss. And
that never ends up happening.
They go to have that moment, and then all of a sudden it's like something comes behind her, grabs her. Whoop! She goes back up into the trees. Trolls! And trolls are just going and grabbing people. So, and that's where it ends.
So like you said, next episode, we're going to see the fallout from this. We're going to see like a rescue attempt, I'm assuming, from the Bone Reavers and Willow's camp to try and get Kit and the other Reavers that were captured back.
Yeah. Hopefully get more of the whole troll, like, civilization. Because it can't just be like, if anything we've learned so far in this series is that they're doing their best to make it so each of these cultures has a reasoning, has a backstory, not evil just for the sake of being evil, like even Bavmorda, right?
Well, there's the exception so far of the crone, but she hasn't really been introduced yet.
Well, the crone is just part of the Bavmorda thing, which is like they're trying to bring unity,
the
whatever.
Worm.
Yeah.
The cult of the worm or
all
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
Which is what I said, like, with Bavmorda. So I just figured those kind of went together anyway.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. I'll be interested to see the trolls. Maybe, like, they take these people and they, I don't know, don't eat them, but do something with them. Like
I said, forcing them into labor, I can totally see them happening, or see them doing that, like making them dig out their new
because they took their lands
or
something, yeah.
Something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we met like some kind of like troll queen or something like that.
Yeah.
That they have to like negotiate with. And like
Alora
you said,
Dannon.
Yeah, put Alora into the equation and, like you said, flesh them out a little bit more so they're not just these mindless baddies. But who knows? We'll see when we watch the episode.
Absolutely.
All right. Other than that, man, what were your overall thoughts after you got done watching this one here? What are some of your hopes for the rest of the series? Like, where are you at?
Okay, so like you said, this is definitely a bit of a downer episode compared to some of the other ones, but I'm looking forward to learning more about the troll culture, kind of going right from there into the last few episodes. This is episode 5, so that means 6, 7, 8. We got 3 more episodes.
Yeah.
Right? Only 8?
Only 8.
And I'm expecting this to start really ramping up here over the course of these next 3.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I hope it ramps up in a positive way. I really wonder what we're going to see as far as Eric goes, and I'm interested to see how quickly Alora masters these other two pillars of magic here. And I can totally see her doing... Of course she's going to be impatient, but I can totally see her doing like the thought thing with the troll queen if it comes to negotiation time and mastering it that way there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Because like each of these tests, she has sort of done one of
one of the
things,
pillars. So. Yeah, so that I can totally see being her negotiation skills is thought control.
I would not say that she's mastered any of them by any stretch of the imagination.
No, she's done it one time, and then she's like, "Oh,
and
done."
I hope they don't let her get away with that. Like, I hope that does come back to bite her, just a little bit. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Like, she could have gotten Eric back at the end, but she wasn't good enough.
That'd be a nice twist.
And so that way, when we go into season 2, I don't know if they've confirmed it or not. I know there's been a lot of talk over the interwebs about it. I haven't looked into it, but if they do a season 2, like, we're off in a good place where it's like she's got to get her confidence back and she's got to believe in herself. Maybe Willow's kind of out of the picture for some of season 2 so we can get some real development with her.
And also hopefully get Mad Mardigan involved as well and see how that goes. But
that'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. That wraps it up for this episode here. So this is going to be 2 Nerds signing off. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.